Hello and a very warm welcome to the late-breaking F1 podcast presented by Sam Sage and me, Ben Hocking, today reviewing the Japanese Grand Prix, a 1-2 finish for Red Bull recovering from last time out in Australia. Max Verstappen taking a very comfortable victory by about 12 seconds over his teammate Sergio Perez, with Carlos Sainz rounding out the podium. All right, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'll tell you who isn't all right. That's producer Kirsty. Oh. You can't see her right now, but she's
living her best life.
She's a little worse for wear after having her birthday drinks, bless her. And also, Harry Eads not here either, because he might literally be running.
Yeah, she's got that over Harry, at least. Yeah. She's here.
I'm impressed. So we're about half the team down at this point. The Japanese Grand Prix weekend has ruined us as a late-breaking unit, but Ben and I will strive to pull through, and I think Kirsty might stagger behind us for a bit until we get to the end of this weekend. Harry, I don't know, running, I believe.
Yeah, so apologies if this episode has been recorded back to front. If you're listening to Moment of the Race first, and then actually this is the last thing on the episode, our apologies. But we've got plenty to talk about. Moment of the Race is coming up later on. We've got some chat about the crash between Alex Albon and Daniel Ricciardo that kicked off the race and caused the red flag. Lando Norris, McLaren and Mercedes, they're battling. But we'll start, of course, out front, which was Max Verstappen taking the win over Sergio Perez. Perez, a good 12 seconds off of Verstappen's pace, but himself very comfortable second over the rest of the field. Of course, that's where he qualified as well. So overall, a good weekend for Perez. In the nicest possible way to Max Verstappen, there's probably not too much to say about his performance out front. That's just how dominant it was. From Perez's perspective, equally fairly comfortable. How much do you think this helps in his case for wanting to obviously drive for the team next year?
Yeah, Max Verstappen displaying once again an effortlessly dominant performance. And in the cool-down room, when they showed himself crossing the finish line, he couldn't even be bothered to look at the screen. He was just like, oh yeah, I've done that for 57 times now. So that's good, isn't it? Cheers, everyone. Thanks for coming. Sergio Perez. Yeah, I think this was really good from Sergio Perez. And obviously, we hold different drivers to different standards. So when you think, well, how come you're calling it really, really good when he finished 12 seconds off of his teammate, didn't beat him in qualifying? It's a fair point, but you hold different drivers to different standards. Sergio Perez is not a 57-time race winner and multiple-time world champion. He's a guy that's trying to do his best. And arguably, I think he is doing his best at the moment. You saw the difference in their pure pace between drivers, and Sergio Perez, I think the gap was accentuated between himself and his teammate because his outright pace being slightly slower means that he had to continually come back through a little bit of traffic around him to make sure that he could get himself back into second. The key part of that part of the argument is that he got through the traffic to get back to second. Yes, his outright pace meant that he had to do it, but we've seen it with different drivers in the past where their ruthlessness to get the job done, to make overtakes when needed, has let them down. Valtteri Bottas is probably the most prime example that I can think of in recent history, where sometimes when they get stuck behind a car that is maybe slightly slower or on a different strategy, they take too long to get the job done, to get past a competitor. And it actually costs them later on in the race. It might cost them a second place or a podium. Not to Sergio Perez today. That did not happen to the Mexican. He was fully able to execute every overtake. He was risky to the point that it was fun to watch, but I don't think dangerous at any point. I'm talking there to the moves through 130R that he displayed brilliantly. He put the car where he needed to. His pit stops were well executed. His pace was consistent. Yeah, a couple of little moments where he went off the track at one point or another, but hey, he was second place. 10 or 11 seconds behind his teammate, and he brought home the rest of the points that Max Verstappen couldn't. So in terms of keeping his chances alive for that drive next season, currently, I think if that's what Sergio Perez wants to do, if he wants to be at Red Bull next season, ball's firmly in his court. Put pen to paper, get the job done. It's been a great start to the season for him, bar one blip in Melbourne, where he did score more points than Max Verstappen due to the DNF of reliability that he had. So 1-2 at every time of asking when Max has finished first, and then he finished the race when Max didn't. It's been a pretty good start to the season.
Yeah, congrats to Sergio Perez, because I believe 130R is going to be renamed to Perez Corner after
130p.
130p.
That sounds like a really cheap.
Yeah, that's how much he's asking for in his next contract. Yeah, 130p.
Can I have 130p, please? £1.30.
It was great though, wasn't it? The back-to-back moves on the Mercedes duo. You're right. It was fairly clinical from him, and it's something that I think he's made a really good step on this season. Is where he's had to make the moves. It has just been almost instant in every occasion. It's been clinical. I can't, at least off the top of my head, remember one so far this year where it's gone pear-shaped for him. It's just been, this is what I need to do to get back to where I think I deserve to be, and he does it. And today was no exception in that regard. And even though, as you say, he was comfortably off the pace of Max Verstappen, obviously qualifying was quite close, but it was pretty apparent early on that, you know, there was no chance that he was going to be able to get Verstappen long term in the race. But yeah, I think, you know, once it became clear that wasn't going to happen, it was just a case of, right, second place. That's what I can do, and that's what he did. So yeah, at the moment, at least, with, you know, Yuki Tsunoda, whilst he's doing a good job, there's always a bit of an underlying lack of confidence there, I think, from senior Red Bull figures. Daniel Ricciardo isn't doing anywhere near the job that, and I appreciate he didn't really get much of an opportunity today, and we'll discuss that a bit later on. But it's not like anyone else is making much of a case. So not only is Perez doing a good job, it's not like anyone else is really doing a similar job, unless you count Carlos Sainz in that mix, I guess.
Yeah, when you're the only person that turns up for the job interview, it's hard not to be given the job role.
It's a good strategy.
Yeah, turn up, be on time, look professional, show that you could do the job. It's hard to say no to that. But you're right, Carlos Sainz is the other name there that should be thrown into the mix. He's definitely not being removed from that. And we're discussing this fight out the front. What a drive Carlos Sainz had today. When he was stuck behind Lando Norris due to their qualifying performance, when it looked like Charles Leclerc was driving absolutely phenomenal one-stop strategy, Carlos Sainz pulls it out the bag again. He's the only other man on the podium. Every single race he's been in this season, he's finished on the podium.
Yeah.
And, you know, Saudi, you can't talk about. The man was out with a missing body
Why wasn't he
part.
there? Where was he?
Should have put the appendix in the car for him. Yeah, I mean, Sergio Perez maybe shouldn't be looking over his shoulder within the garage, but maybe should be looking down the pit lane at his rivals, because Carlos Sainz is surely the closest competitor to taking that seat off of him as we speak right now after the Japanese Grand Prix.
Before we move on from the Red Bull duo out front, I know Helmut Marko made comments after qualifying regarding how his contract status, or his lack of contract status, I guess, is proving to be a bit of a motivator for Sergio Perez. Do you read anything into that? Do you think that is part of why Perez seems to have upped his game this year?
It's definitely possible, but I think that's entirely subjective based on the person. This is not a consistent factor that you can apply. It's not like we should now be saying that all Formula One drivers should all be running off one-year contracts, because they might drive at their very best. Certain drivers drive very well under pressure. Certain drivers drive very well when there is no pressure. Valtteri Bottas, for example, looked like he struggled with that 1 year extension every single year that he got on Mercedes. And I keep bringing up Valtteri Bottas as a direct comparison to Perez, because he does feel like the most natural mirror image. Right, exactly. Yeah, you've got the dominant world champion, and then you've got the B-side driver who is there to pick up the rest of the points for them to take the Constructors' Championship home. I think it's definitely spurred him on, but I also don't feel like the Red Bull family have made it a particularly known issue, publicly at least, that his seat is at risk. I do think it's very much a journalistic, pundit-driven storyline. I think Red Bull have given Perez the chance to keep it firmly in his court. Christian Horner has come out multiple times and said, keeps doing a good job. We've got no issues with what Perez is doing, right? We have faith in him and he's delivering. So realistically, I don't think he's driving under too much pressure. I'm sure he's aware of the situation. He's not an idiot, but I do not think that he's panicking going, I've got to perform in every single Grand Prix to keep my seat. He's doing enough in my books. Carlos Sainz is actually the man that he's got to keep an eye on.
Seems that way at the moment. Moving on to Carlos Sainz and his Ferrari friend Charles Leclerc, third and fourth in today's race. Obviously, qualifying didn't go to plan. We've seen Ferrari in the past challenge Red Bull on a Saturday. Here, Carlos Sainz qualified in fourth place behind the McLaren of Lando Norris. Charles Leclerc even further down the grid, down in eighth, so he had even more work to do. But they do recover to be the second best team on the day. Not enough to obviously challenge the top two. What do you make of their strategies? Because they went in very different directions, but in the end somewhat came back together.
Yeah, this is what maximizing a weekend looks like when you're not Red Bull. This is the absolute most that you could get out of it. When both Red Bulls are on form, the car is working well for them, and they're at a track that suits them down to the ground, which this Suzuka circuit often does. So Ferrari have absolutely maximised this. And you know what? Don't say that very often, but well done to Ferrari. I called them out in the qualifying review that we did with Charles Leclerc qualified in 8th place. And I said, feels like the only way that they can really get that car back up to where Carlos Sainz is by doing something different with the strategy, trying something a bit new, trying something a bit unexpected. And Charles Leclerc was given the tough task of running a one-stop strategy. I believe he's the only person in the top 10 that executed the one-stop strategy. And whilst the strategy was viable, it definitely was not easy. It was not a simple strategy to execute. We saw the degradation that those tyres went through. We saw just how much longer the hard tyre was able to hold on for and maintain the speed around this track. The circuit at Suzuka punishes tyres. You know, the S's at the start is absolutely brutal. Spoon curve is savage on the tyres. It's a really tough track to maintain tyre wear. And we've often given certain drivers a lot of praise for their ability to eke out tyre life. Sergio Perez is one of them. Lewis Hamilton is another one. But Charles Leclerc, maybe it's just added this to his locker. To run that long on medium tyres and only be 0.2 a lap slower than Lando Norris on a new set of tyres was phenomenal pace. And it looked like both strategies were completely viable because the drivers were able to execute them at such a high ability. Carlos Sainz was the best driver outside of the Red Bull duo on that two-stop strategy, and he made it work fantastically well. He outdrove Lando Norris today. For halfway through the race, I thought, Lando looks good. I don't know what's going on here. And then Sainz stepped it up a gear and he really delivered. But Charles Leclerc does deserve a round of applause because he let himself down in qualifying. That was on him, and he had to make up the difference. And usually I don't like to give extra points for just having to make up to the places to where your teammate is. But he should be given some plaudits here. He did deliver a strategy that was unexpectedly difficult, and he made it work, and he brought home brilliant points for Ferrari. So, yeah, 2 different strategies, both different sides of the garage, and they come home with the maximum points that I think Ferrari could have taken home today. So hats off to them. They got it 100% bang on. You deserve to be applauded when you get it right, Ferrari. It's a rarity, but you've done it.
Yes, indeed. I think if you're Lewis Hamilton, who's obviously joining the team next year, you'd have been quite infused by the performance that occurred at Australia, based on obviously taking the win, taking the 1-2 finish. And even though Max Verstappen did retire from that Grand Prix, I do genuinely think they would have been a match for Verstappen on that day. Now, that would have been, like I say, you'd be infused by that performance. I think you should be equally infused by what happened today, because whilst pace-wise they weren't on it in the same way as I think they were in Australia, you're right, strategically they absolutely maxed this Grand Prix, which isn't something you can ordinarily say about Ferrari. In fact, if we can check all of the previous 390 episodes of this podcast, it might be the first time I've ever said that. But they absolutely did. Charles Leclerc, that first stint was mega. That was a mega stint. And, minus the slight detour off track that he got away with. He nearly didn't because, of course, he came back into traffic, but just ahead of where he needed to be. And Carlos Sainz was great as well. I mean, Charles Leclerc, as you say, had to recover somewhat, and he will get a lot of plaudits. Of course, he's one driver of the day, and we'll get on to who we think is driver of the day very soon. So he delivered a great performance. And on the other side of the garage, Carlos Sainz, he did absolutely everything he needed to do, and he'll be looking at Charles Leclerc, who's claimed driver of the day, and go, yeah, that's cool. I'll take the 3 more points. I'm happy with that.
I'll take another podium, thanks.
Yeah, exactly. Carlos Sainz is in a great position where his teammate's won driver of the day, and he's beaten him. And Carlos Sainz, as you said, continues to deliver 3 podiums out of 3, essentially, so far this year. So, yeah, I thought Ferrari did a phenomenal job, and I don't think 3-4 could have been beaten from their perspective, based on their pace. Speaking of driver of the day, should we give that out?
I think we've got a lovely little jingle that we can glisten our ears with right now.
Here it is.
The verdict is in. You're the driver of the day. You're the driver of the day. You're good at driving.
Ever soulful from Live Laugh Latifi.
Yeah. Challenge, don't sway to that music. Failed every time.
Honestly, put it into a 60s heartthrob movie and I'm there.
As we say, Charles Leclerc got driver of the day based on the public vote, but who are you going with?
I am actually going to give it to Carlos Sainz. I think that I can't really give driver of the day claims to a driver that had to dig himself out of a hole. And again, like I just said, full credit to Charles Leclerc. He dug where he needed to dig. The boy surfaced.
He got his spade out.
He got that spade out and turned it into a ladder, and he climbed, he arose like God Leclerc should. But he did have to rise from Moses Leclerc and get himself back up to the holy position. So 4th place, very, very good. And it was a mega stint, and he deserves a lot of credit for it. You know, the boys still got it. But Carlos Sainz has been phenomenal. I mean, okay, he missed out slightly against Lando Norris in qualifying, but he was right there when he needed to be. And then during the race, it was just effortless every single time. No mistakes made. The lockups came everywhere else, and he didn't make one that I'm fully aware of. The strategy was brilliantly called. The tyre life ran perfectly. It was a really strong weekend from Carlos Sainz. And if anyone out there happens to be the owner of a Formula One team and they also listen to this podcast, maybe consider giving the boy a job, because he bloody well needs one and he bloody well deserves one. I imagine they all listen, but there's only so many seats available, so we'll let a few of them off.
Sure. The only lockup I can think of from Sainz was at the Casio Triangle, because he needed to jump over that one once.
Yes,
but
everyone has to.
I think we can let him get away with that. I also had both of the Ferrari drivers listed. I think they were great. Yuki Tsunoda basically won Formula 2 again, so, you know, that was a win. It is a bit mad that he finished probably about 2 pit stops away from the next best car. He was lapped, of course, but based on the split between the first 5 teams and the second 5 teams, I think he got the most out of this race, which unfortunately for him was just 1 point. I'm going to go boring and say Verstappen. He did win by double figures. I know it's a really dull answer at this point, but it is still great. So
I mean, you know you're doing brilliantly well when you've won a race, won by double figures, got the fastest lap, got pole position, didn't get overtaken the entire time. And I've forgotten to mention him in the driver of the day because he was so clear of everyone else that he just doesn't exist. You know, you reach the God plane where you just, is it myth? Is he really there?
I don't think I think Perez won that race. I think the Ferraris finished 2-3.
You know the famous UFO poster, I want to believe, but take the UFO out and put Max Verstappen's head in. That's kind of what Formula One is at the moment.
Great. We'll leave that to someone to make that one up. Should we go to the negative side of the debate? Worst driver of the day.
A lot of options, isn't there, this weekend? We've had a few races recently where you kind of go, oh, it feels a bit harsh, or everyone kind of lined up where we expected. But there were quite a few drivers that let themselves down this weekend. I'm going to not give it to this person, but I want to kick off with a few names. Lewis Hamilton is the first one I want to call out. It looked like a positive start to the weekend. He goes through practice and calls out that, hey, car feels brilliant, gets into qualifying, beats George Russell, and comfortably. It's the first time he's done it in, this would have been the 6th race. Gets into the Grand Prix. Russell's complaining of vibrations. The steering feels funny. His helmet's falling off of his head, which is so bizarre, but also that's so George Russell. And then, not only that, George Russell then closes the gap to him immediately. He brings down a 2.5 second gap down to 0.8. Lewis Hamilton almost seems to, I mean, it's sensible. It makes sense for the team, and I get it. But where is this cutthroat, I'm a winner attitude where he goes, oh, shall I let George past? Immediately. It's not like he was there for a long time. Immediately just goes, shall I? I'll go. Okay. It's like when you've turned up to your mate's house and he's sat there with his girlfriend. You're on your own. You go, shall I go? I'll go. I'll go. I'll leave you to it. You know, the scene in the In-Betweeners where Will and Simon are stood there with the girl on the trip, and he's going, feisty one, you are. God. And she's like, yeah, good night, Will. Good night. And that's Lewis Hamilton right now. Feisty one, you are.
You can't call him Will from the In-Betweeners. That's ridiculous.
George Russell is Simon, and 7th place is the girl.
7th place is Carly.
Hey. So this was not a good weekend, it turns out, for Lewis Hamilton. I got to give George Russell some credit because we didn't in the driver of the day. I don't think he deserves that level of credit, but turned out to be a pretty good weekend from him. Forced a mistake from Piastri, got good points. In a car that is clearly not very good, I do think he got a lot out of it. Moving back down the grid on worst driver of the day, you've got drivers like Lance Stroll, who qualified badly, made some phenomenal overtakes. You know, I have to give my credit to him for passing around the outside like Marshall Mathers more times than he sings in that song, because he goes around the outside of those S's like nobody's business. But then they put him on a fresh set of softs to try and get all the way up to Yuki Tsunoda to secure that last place, in that last points place, and then ends up getting overtaken by the Haas again before the end of the Grand Prix because the tyres fall off. He can't maintain the pace and he's too far back. So not good from Lance Stroll. But I am going to give a shout to Daniel Ricciardo as the worst driver of the day. We'll get on to talking about the accident that happened later on in the podcast, so I'm not going to give too much detail, but that should tell you where my head's at where it comes to responsibility and blame.
Yeah. My conclusion for worst driver of the day was it wasn't a good day to have LS as your initials. Because neither Lance Stroll or Logan Sargent fared very well. I think Logan Sargent was doing a fairly okay job up to the point where he wasn't, and that car ended up dirtier than a dirty thing. That was...
At like lap 40, I was like, this is really good. And then it looked like he drove through a bakery.
Yes, pretty much. And, I mean, that we'll get on to maybe Alpine in a bit, but that Alpine was so slow, and Logan Sargent was the only one to lose out to. I think both of them in the end. So he's in contention. Lance Stroll. Weirdly, I'm actually going to go the other way with Lance Stroll. So I don't actually lay too much blame for him on that final stint in terms of getting overtaken by that Haas. I think that was strategy based. We saw how quickly those soft tyres went off, and they basically asked him to do, I think, way too long on that stint. So I don't mind that he dropped off, because I think nearly anyone would have dropped off towards the end of that stint. But actually, on the other side of things, in terms of the overtakes, given how big the gap was between the top 5 teams and the bottom 5 teams, it was difficult for me to be overly overjoyed, I guess, by some of those overtakes, just based on the advantage that car had, as much as he might have thought otherwise, which we might get onto in a little bit. I have to give it to Daniel Ricciardo as well, though, and that should probably tell you where I'm at with it.
Before we go to our little break, just want to ask what you thought generally of the race, because we had a lot of different tyre strategies going on. I know the race out front was kind of done and dusted, but did you like it? Did you think it was good?
It was good.
Yeah, like a 7.
Yeah, 6.5, 7. I'll probably go. I thought it was good, not great. Because whilst there was a lot of overtaking and I appreciated all the different strategies, outside of maybe... I thought the Russell and Piastri battle late on was great, but there were a lot of slam dunk overtakes, which maybe made the race appear... If you look back at it in years' time and see how many overtakes there were, it might be a little misrepresentative.
Yeah, obviously, moving on to the start-finish straight around Suzuka, it's such a heavy traction zone. So if your tyres have started to go off and you've got fresher tyres behind, the ability that you get down that start-finish straight is so huge. So you're right, a lot of moves were made going into that first corner, and they look fantastic on camera. But yeah, how competitive were they? I think it's a fair shout. 6.5 out of 7 or 7. Yeah, I think it's fair.
Okay, welcome back. So outside of the top 4 positions that were entirely occupied by Red Bull and Ferrari, we had the McLaren of Lando Norris in P5, Fernando Alonso doing Fernando Alonso things in the mix as well, and then George Russell getting by Oscar Piastri on the last lap for P7. Lewis Hamilton, of course, then in P9. What did you make of... We'll start with Lando Norris, since he was the lead of this pack. Do you think a podium was missed out on today? Obviously, that's where he started, or was P5 behind the Ferraris realistically all he was going to get?
I don't think P5 is bad. I'm not going to put him down for finishing P5. I think this is a good result for McLaren. I do think that someone like Lando Norris, though, will go into the debrief and go, we are pretty close to those Ferraris, maybe with a better strategy, better race management. P3's on the cards. I do think P4 was possible. You saw the way that Leclerc, yes, he was managing those tyres and he did a brilliant job in doing so. But the tyre deficit, we've seen it, was so huge. When you have new tyres and compared to old, the pace difference is ginormous. And Carlos Sainz, I know he's in the same machinery as Charles Leclerc, that once he got up to him, made that pass and was off down the road by 5 or 6 seconds before the end of the Grand Prix, Lando Norris never caught up to Leclerc. There was never even a battle. So I do think that 4th place was on the cards and maybe should have been attained. 3rd place, I think Sainz had this one in the bag, and it would have been a really brilliant performance from Lando if he managed to claim that 3rd. Despite starting there, I think he actually out-qualified what the car was capable of on a perfect day. So yeah, 5th is good. 4th was definitely attainable. Would have been a really, really strong race for him. third is not quite dreamland, but I do think that it would have taken some lovely circumstances for him to get there.
Yep, copy and paste. That's my answer as well. I think P3 and Carlos Sainz was probably a bridge too far, but Charles Leclerc I think was beats. But given that Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris came into the pits on the same lap, of course the difference was that Lando Norris had already had one pit stop at this point, and Charles Leclerc was coming in for his first stop. So essentially, they did the same number of laps when they came in for their second and first stop, respectively, which I think at that point, McLaren must have gone, I think Lando Norris was kind of in a similar position when he realised that he was being called into the pits, and then Charles Leclerc directly in front of him is also coming into the pits. And it's like, well, hang on, that guy hasn't stopped, and he was way behind me. What's happened here? And whilst we have already given credit for the Charles Leclerc side of things, that's not an ideal position for McLaren to have put themselves in. So I agree with you. I think fourth place might have been attainable, but not third today. I still think it's fairly positive for McLaren. They still do seem to be a tick behind Ferrari, but I think given the advantage they currently have over Mercedes and Aston Martin, third place in the championship where they are at the moment seems achievable medium to long term.
Yeah, that was a really strange call, wasn't it? I understand they were trying to cover off a few of the cars behind, but it must have been so demoralising for McLaren and for Ferrari and for Norris, to see Charles Leclerc's Ferrari come into that pit lane after not stopping on those medium tyres for that long. And they've gone, the hard tyres are already starting to lose their ability. We need to cover off cars behind. I think it was maybe Russell they were looking to cover off, who, was quite far back at that time. And they finished quite far in front of him. So maybe it worked in that respect. And maybe actually McLaren might turn around and go, that call saved us fifth rather than actually attacking fourth or third. Who knows? But for me, it feels like they got themselves in a bit of a muddle strategically.
Yeah, a little bit. Further back, George Russell versus Oscar Piastri. So George Russell, of course, coming back at Oscar Piastri. Piastri himself was stuck behind Fernando Alonso for a large part of this Grand Prix, to the point where both Mercedes really could catch up to Piastri, and it was George Russell who was close enough to make that move on the final lap, but not before. Piastri made a bit of an error to help George Russell get there. Before we get to the move that actually happened, let's talk about the move that nearly did. So this was George Russell trying a very cheeky move into Casio Triangle. Couldn't quite make it pay. Piastri, of course, had to cut the corner. How did you view that?
I loved the ambition from George Russell. I absolutely love that he decided, Fernando Alonso is doing Fernando Alonso things and deciding to slow down after the 130R turn every single lap to ensure that Oscar Piastri stays in my DRS zone, because he is essentially doing the Sainz and Norris tactic from Singapore, where he goes, if I use this car as a buffer, that car behind me can't catch me in the slow section, and then therefore going down the straight, he keeps the really fast car behind him. Genius from Fernando Alonso. Would love to know some people's opinions on why slowing down on that corner is very different to slowing down on turn 3 or wherever it was in Melbourne.
Because I can think of one difference.
Was there someone missing a wheel afterwards?
That might have been it.
Anyway, we'll move on. So, of course, Russell absolutely goes for a dive bomb, but it was well timed, well calculated. But I do think he got away with it. Excuse me. I think he got away with it a little bit. And I'll tell you why. Max Verstappen has executed similar moves in the past where he has chucked the car in, the opposing car has had to take to the runoff zone, and there's been a lot of uproar about that. And I do think that uproar is fairly given. I do think that criticism is fairly given. And whilst Russell didn't get the move done immediately after the corner, it had to go round again. It did mean that Piastri had been disturbed enough that he was no longer close enough to Fernando Alonso to pick up the DRS, which then meant that he was incredibly vulnerable, which of course led to the mistake. Now, I think that, and we haven't had the penalty through, I don't think anything's come through yet. It is under investigation from Russell. I do think that he was very much playing with fire. I feel like it was on the line. Some might call it a clever tactic. Yeah, I don't really know what line I stand on. I think he probably pushed it too far and actually probably should have backed off properly and then gone at him again just to go, I was a little bit aggressive there. I'll restore the advantage that Piastri had, and then we carry on racing. I think by making Piastri have to run off the track due to the fact he had no room available to him, he ended up essentially giving himself the overtake, which is clever. But equally, I don't know if I agree with that kind of move.
I think firstly, the attempt of the overtake here, and this was kind of related to my point of how quality of overtake is better than quantity. That overtake that didn't happen for me was like maybe the most entertaining thing of this race. I think it was more entertaining than 10 DRS overtakes added together. Like, it was, I thought, a brilliantly attempted move. Like, it was subtly done by George Russell. Like, it was out of nowhere, Randy Orton style. Up the yeah, exactly. Up the inside of that corner, I didn't see it coming. Obviously, Piastri probably didn't see it coming either, and I thought it was a fair move to attempt. I think it was borderline, but I think it was okay. I was fine with this attempted move because I don't think it was quite the same as some of the others we've seen in the past where, I know Max Verstappen has done it, others have as well, where a driver has taken the full length of the track in making that move, forcing the other driver off the road. I don't think it was quite there, because I still think there was space for Piastri, but it would have been risky. And I think Piastri made the decision, I'm not sure I'm going to play it safe. And I think he was within his rights to play it safe, but I do think at the time he made that decision, there was still room for him to go through the corner. Now, I think the issue would have been, obviously that narrows quite quickly, unless George Russell then averts to the right, that gap would have gone quite quickly, at which point obviously they have a crash and George Russell is 100% at fault for that. But I don't think Piastri let that play out, which I can completely understand, which is why I think racing incident, I don't think there should be any penalty applied for this at all. I thought the move was fair. I thought Piastri's reaction was fair, and let's keep racing.
I'm going to disagree with you there, Ben. I think that the move was on, and Russell had every right to make the move, and I'm okay with him making the move. But I think the execution halfway through the move, I think Piastri had to make that move off the track. I think if he stays in there for a second further, there's either some kind of contact, something goes wrong with one of the drivers. And so if the driver defending has to make essentially an emergency maneuver to get themselves out of trouble, then the driver behind has put the other driver in an unsafe position and taking up too much of the road. And I do think that Russell was maybe overzealous in his attempt in that corner. I love the ambition. I love the sending down the inside. I think Piastri had to get off the track to make sure that both of those drivers safely got through, and the defending driver shouldn't have to make that move. They should be able to use the track wherever they feel necessary, and the attacking driver should have to get the move done up to them safely. So, see your point, but I think I disagree with it.
Yeah, I think our view on this type of situation is essentially the same. It's just that you're essentially viewing it as he needed to make that move, and I'm saying it was smarter for him to, but I don't know if he needed to. Which, yeah, that will be the reason for us thinking differently.
We'll see what the stewards decide.
We will. Should we go on to Big Brain Strat?
I suppose we can look at a Big Brain Strat.
Oh, hang on. I've got a jingle for this one as well.
Bob, we're gonna need you to box for wets. What? It's not even raining out. What are you talking about? Yeah, and Bob, if you get a chance, let your teammate pass you. What? He crashed out. He's not even in the race.
Honestly, it's so the Killers from the early 2000s that if Brendan Flowers rings us up and goes, can you get rid of the Bob comments and just give me the track? Live, laugh, Latifi's going to make millions.
Very true. And of course, Brandon Flowers is a massive fan of this podcast.
I'm a massive fan of him.
That is very true. What are you going for?
This is going to be harsh. And I know this is kind of standard procedure, but it's a bit conspiracy theory, so I kind of like it because it's a bit juicy.
Oh, here we go.
After the Albon-Ricciardo crash, it's very evident that Daniel Ricciardo hits the underbody extinguisher, which completely destroys all parts under the chassis, means that he has to have a full rebuild of his car for the next Grand Prix. And hey, if Ricciardo is going to turn around and go, oh, that might not look good on me. Oh, that noise is Harry E joining everyone.
Harry?
Harry, are you there, sir?
Oh, hey guys.
What's going on?
Oh, where are you? Are you in a little runner's booth halfway around the marathon?
Yeah. I've done half of it already. I've just paused.
You look amazing for running, what, going on 10 miles?
Yeah, cheers, guys. Sorry to interrupt. Just how's it going?
Yeah, we're having a lovely time. We're on Big Brain Strat. Your Big Brain Strat is you turned up.
Yeah.
Hey, that's probably the best big brain strat, no?
Yeah, you look like you're actually in a commentary booth. What are you doing?
I'm not in a commentary booth, I promise. I'm holding my mic like I am, but I'm not.
Classic hold the mic stand. It's a pro move.
Did you watch the whole race?
I did, yeah.
I have
know
a
what happened.
question based on that because we are
yeah.
on Big Brain Strat, and Sam has just plucked for the conspiracy theory that Daniel Ricciardo has intentionally hit the extinguisher button when he crashed, so it would completely destroy the chassis. I'm interested to know what you think about that.
Oh, I did see this. I thought I read that was standard procedure, but then I thought no one else has ever done that before, have they?
Don't
Just
see it that
crashing.
often, do you? You don't see it that often.
Who was it who accidentally hit it? Or was it Schumacher a few years ago?
Yeah, it was in F2, I think. Or
Was it
something
F-
like
oh
that.
yeah, it was F2. Yeah.
God, that is a good conspiracy theory. I like that.
It's juicy. It's fun, all right? I don't know how real it is, but it's a Big Brain Strat, Ricardo. It seems clever.
Yeah, it's not a bad one. It's not a bad one at all. Shall I give a big
Yeah,
brain
go on,
strat
mate.
whilst
While
I'm-
you're here.
Knock on
Whilst
in,
I'm here.
mate. Get stuck
Special
in.
guest. Big brain strat. I will go for Nico Hulkenberg taking his soft tires off after 3 laps after the start, or restart, I should say. Just not doing that anymore.
Don't want to stop, actually.
Yeah, but then we'll be the first person to stop, and then we'll still beat Magnussen. Sorry, K Mag.
Here, Hulkenberg, you can have a free tyre change. Nope. 3 laps in. Yeah,
Something's
okay, I'll
gone-
take it now. No, it's not
Nico,
free anymore, mate.
You're actually really good. We need to give you a handicap. So you have to stop when no one else stops now because you're too good for the back end of this field.
Yeah.
I mean, we've
Those-
already done
those
this
are
as
good
well,
ones.
by the way, Harry, but you can give driver of the day and worst driver of the day as
Yeah,
well.
you're going to run through your
Yeah.
usuals.
Yeah, sure. Driver of the day. I mean, you probably mentioned it, but Verstappen. I think we should stop counting him at all now from this driver of the day because he just is all the time, right? So we'll just discount that. I'll go for Carlos Sainz again. I know we're going to sound like a fanboy, but he's being very impressive at the moment.
Mate, you and
And
me
I
look
know-
like Luigi and whatever his name is in cars. That's just you and me on the side of the racetrack at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very impressed, especially because the strategy. I'm not saying it didn't work out in his favor versus Leclerc, but Leclerc was obviously different. But don't know, easily to get you let your head drop slightly because he came up behind. He obviously had fresh tires, but I don't know if it just his pace was very good today. And again, out-qualified Leclerc and Leclerc had a great race actually, but was better than him in the race too. So I'll go Carlos Sainz for driver of the day. Worst driver of the day, Logan, mate. Just don't fall off the road.
It's not a bad idea.
Someone
You know.
spilled flour all over his car.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a very flowery car by the time he was done. He was actually doing okay, I thought, and then he did that. So, well done. Good effort. Williams having a great time.
Goodness me.
How
It
many
is
chassis have
not
they got?
good.
Are they Daniel Ricciardo, mate? Can we have that one you've just covered in fire extinguisher? We really need a chassis.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure they're going to just drive James Vowles' car next week.
Pat Fry turns up in like a VW Beetle, just like, get in, gang.
This'll do. Still beats the Alpines.
Oh, yeah, by the way, they're terrible.
Good
They're
lord.
They're still free falling. They got pushed off a cliff and they're still going backwards.
No, they are actually going backwards. It's not even a turn of phrase. They were actually going backwards.
You know,
I don't understand.
Bernie's watch,
Sorry.
where he freezes the time and he can then rewind it. This is a very British reference. Alpine have got stuck in the Bernie's watch thing, and they're in reverse the entire time.
So bad.
I don't understand because at one point they were last and second last, and they were still being overtaken. I swear they were.
They managed it.
Fancy another one? Of course you do.
Ocon was 11th at one point. He was 11th because he got the best start he possibly could, and then it was nope, bye bye. Yeah, that was pretty awful. Yeah, maybe that's my big brain strat actually. Alpine not turning up with an engine. That was a big brain strat.
Going the wrong way.
Something we've already touched on, really. My one was Lewis Hamilton letting George Russell by, and then for the rest of the race going, we've lost more time. Where's all that time gone? It's like, well, you slowed up for George Russell. That didn't help, did it?
Oh, God.
I've lost so many positions.
Yeah.
The man tries an alternative strategy every single race. And currently, his alternative strategy is be behind my teammate, then have to stop behind my teammate, and then fall back further behind, and then whinge about it. Just be better. You're a 7-time champion. Just get good.
It
for
was
Christ's sake.
bad. And to be fair, Sam, you called this spot on yesterday with Mercedes in terms of Russell versus Hamilton, because Hamilton, as we know, out-qualified Russell for the first time in a long time. But race pace, Russell was there and Hamilton wasn't for large parts of this race. So, not good. You'll be glad to know, Harry, we haven't reviewed bold predictions yet, so we can do that now.
It's a great one for us.
It really, really is. We'll start with you, Harry. What did you predict?
I was ambitious. I said that Verstappen wouldn't be in the top 3 again.
What did he
as
do?
He wasn't in Australia. He was first. He got pole, fastest lap.
Sounds like that might be wrong then.
Did he do the full sweep?
Marshall lump.
Okay, that wasn't very good. Sam,
I said that neither Mercedes would score points.
where did they finish?
In the points, yeah.
Yep, that's no good. Hey, it's still better than mine. I said Alex Albon would be in the top 8. That lasted all of one corner.
Yeah, the top 8 seconds of the Grand Prix, maybe.
In fairness, my bold prediction was alive longer than it was in Australia when I said Logan Sargent would score a point.
Stop picking Williams-related bold predictions.
All of my bold predictions pretty much so far this year have been a team who doesn't score a lot of points is going to score points. So I'm not going with that again. I'm done.
The difference is Albon will now be an 8th at the Chinese Grand Prix.
Oh, I know, guaranteed. But
That's happened on multiple occasions for you where it's come true the next race.
it's disgusting, really. Okay, everyone, welcome back. We'll take advantage of Mr. Eid being here. And I can go to you first. What did you make of that first lap incident between Albon and Ricciardo that obviously caused a lengthy red flag that knocked the start of the race back by about 30 minutes or so? Both drivers obviously out straight away. What did you make of it?
I thought, as far as I'm aware, there's no further review, right? But I thought it was a fairly racing incident. They showed multiple replays and they obviously commentary were all over it. But it's just, we've got these boats of cars now and Suzuka's pretty narrow. I don't know, just feels like that sort of thing's inevitable. Ricciardo, yeah, if you're going to put blame on someone, yeah, Ricciardo, but I just don't, it would seem very unfair to say he did that with any intent at all. And as they pointed out in commentary, he was looking left at Stroll. And it's so quick up to that first part of the S's that one look in your mirror and then you're already there. So he was never going to see Albon. So Albon was probably a bit advantageous because realistically, where was that? What gap was he actually going for there around the outside of the first part of the S's? Is anything going to happen? So, but yeah, it was racing incident in my book, but two people who really could do with not crashing.
Yeah.
Of all the people. And I actually thought, I know Tsunoda out qualified yesterday, but Ricciardo's most encouraging weekend of the year so far. So I thought maybe today could have been a good day for him, but nope. And obviously Williams just live to build new chassis now.
Yeah, so for China, it will be Albon racing the backup chassis and Logan Sargent will now race the backup chassis. I think that's how it's going to work out.
Yeah, that's how it works. So, yeah, unfortunate for both of them. But yeah, definitely racing incident in my book. This is going to be ridiculous, but I need to go now. So,
hey,
it's been real,
good
guys.
to hear from you.
Good luck, mate. Have fun running.
Thanks so much.
Send us a photo when you're done.
I'll be better this week on the podcast, promise.
That's a promise.
Bye.
Folks.
If I don't die, I'll see you on the next one.
Follow him around London. Harry Tracker.
Yeah.
Bye.
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 Who was that?
I've never heard of that guy before. Literally like a streaker on the pitch.
We need to make these links private, honestly. So anyone can turn up.
Yeah, absolute riffraff.
Well, he won't be here to stick around for our opinion on it. He doesn't know that we've given Ricciardo worst driver of the day.
That was so interesting that he's turned up. He's such a Ricciardo fanboy, isn't he?
Well, I think I know where this is going to go, but what did you make of the incident?
Yeah, no, I think this was really bad from Daniel Ricciardo. Yeah, the interesting thing was that in the cool down room, Max Verstappen looked at that clip and literally within a second went, you can see Ricciardo's looking left. Okay, that's great. But when you're taught how to drive, you have to check all your mirrors and you look left and you look right. And it's the start of a Grand Prix. And Harry made a very good point. These cars are big. The track is narrow. You have to be aware of your surroundings at all times. And Alex Albon was 4/5 of the way alongside him before he decided to get out the way because he saw the gap was suddenly closing on him and elected for the fact that the grass maybe looked like a safer option than driving wheel to wheel Daniel Ricciardo at that moment. Looking to the left is not an excuse for me. You need to be aware of everyone around you. And I know he's defending, but Alex Albon had the space and he was perfectly entitled to put his car alongside him on track. And he drove straight into him. He just closed the door without even knowing that there was a car there. And whilst I don't think there was any malicious intent, I don't think there needs to be malicious intent to take the blame and a penalty. In fact, this is very damaging for Williams. I mean, it does. The story goes around that obviously they haven't got enough chassis and stuff like that. But for any team, this is an unfair amount of damage that they've had to sustain because someone's been a bit careless when at the start of a Grand Prix. I just, it was rookie from Ricciardo. I was not impressed at all. I thought this was really, really poor. You're looking at a car that was nowhere near you, and you've not realised another car, which is right alongside you, and driven into them. It's not good enough.
Yeah, I basically went the same opinion as you did on this, in that, yeah, you can tell that he is looking to his left, but as the police keep telling me, you've got to look at your other mirrors as well. That's not an excuse.
Like?
Yeah, I know, they just won't let me get away with that excuse. But yeah, there can be cars on both sides, I'm afraid, Daniel.
It's racing. They're trying to get past you.
Yeah. I don't deny that it was fairly optimistic from Alex Albon. It was to go around the outside there. He was a fair way back going into turn one, which obviously it's the nature of the S's though, isn't it? It's just they feed into one another. So I think there was ambition there from Alex Albon, but I don't think it was poor from him. I think he was entitled to give that a go. And Daniel Ricciardo did have the space to, unless if Lance Stroll was fully alongside Daniel Ricciardo and there is going to be a crash and Daniel Ricciardo has to essentially choose which of the two drivers do I crash into, I think that's a different situation. I don't think that was where it was at, though. I think Ricciardo could have avoided that quite easily, and it's a shame for him because I know he was 11th, so he didn't make Q3, but he had more of an opportunity to get at least a point today than he has done in previous races.
Yeah, a lot of people arguing about the Lance Stroll factor. He's had to give space to Lance Stroll. He was comfortably in front of Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll was not alongside him. Alex Albon was actually alongside Daniel Ricciardo. Lance Stroll was a good car length behind at that point. So it's good to be aware of half of your car, but there's another half that you've got to look after. Poor James Vowles has spent his entire race allocation budget on bloody duct tape. They're going to be over the cost cap at this point.
Yeah. You imagine that's the reason. Been to B&Q too many times.
They might as well buy out B&Q just with the cost cap money.
Good idea. Should we move on to the rest of the grid, I'm going to call it, because we focused a lot on the top 10 earlier on. Yuki Tsunoda managed to score a point at his home race, and in the end, fairly comfortably clear of any other driver looking to challenge him. What did you make of his race?
I thought he was brilliant. He had a difficulty with his transponder, didn't he, at one point, which meant that it was very hard to track where he was. But after the red flag restart, he definitely lost some positions from where he started and then immediately decided, I'm going to make them all up in one go again. Because he was in front of George Russell coming out of turn 3, which I thought was a fantastic restart from him. It put him in a very advantageous position. And then that group, that pack of maybe 5 or 6 cars were like a little relay race. They just kept swapping each other over time and time again. And we had that brilliant moment in the pit lane where all 5 of those cars were essentially hustling themselves out of the pit lane at the same time. But the Minardi pit crew and Yuki Tsunoda, that separated him between him and the rest of the riffraff behind him that he had to get past. That was the defining moment. Yuki Tsunoda did everything on track to make sure he was there, but Minardi, RB, Cash App, whatever, you pay full price for that pit crew because they executed a fantastic pit stop. They got them in and out in front of everyone else. And from that point on, he was able to move ahead in clean air and get the strategy done. Everyone was trying to stop him. It was like a zombie apocalypse movie where you're sprinting down the road and every zombie trying to get you just falls short behind, nipping at your heels. He just kept pushing on further and further ahead to the point at the end where he was kind of in a race on his own, being 5 or 6 seconds clear of the chasing pack. Brilliantly strong. I think he outdrove the car, and I think he picked up absolutely everything he could. Even managed to beat an Aston Martin, which I think, Lance Stroll showed in moments that car is still comfortably capable of being in 10th place and probably should have been. But it was Yuki again, and he brings home points for the first time at home Grand Prix in Japan since 2012. So brilliant stuff from him.
Yeah, I thought Tsunoda did a very good job. He, and like I said earlier on in the episode, he essentially won his race. Like, there was nothing more than 10th he could have got out of it, so he deserves credit for that. This is going to come across as a little bit negative. I do think, not that he was handed it, but there could and should have been a better challenge from other drivers around him, which we'll get onto in a little bit. But even so, he can only control his own race. He can only do...
Can he beat what's around you?
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what he did. As we've already said, the pit crew did a wonderful job to get him out of essentially... it was like 5 cars in there at once, wasn't it? If he's at the back of that pack, maybe this doesn't happen for him. So, and it won't... It's... In one way, it's great for Tsunoda because he got a point in front of his home crowd. In another way, it must be a bit frustrating for him because he has essentially delivered the perfect result and got a point. It's, a few DNFs in front of him and suddenly he might be looking at 6 points again like he did in Australia, maybe more than that. But instead, again, it's not on him. It's just he got everything he could. It's just a shame for him. It's only 1 point.
Yeah, I mean, when the car is, they claim that it's a better car and they bigged it up at the start of the season saying, I see top 5s on the horizon. But fair play to Yuki, really. We've given him stick the last couple of seasons, but he's turned up this year and he is delivering. And this was another phenomenal performance from him. And you made that point about, no one really challenged him. Well, I think part of the reason no one challenged him was because he was just better than everyone else around him as well. You can only beat what's around you. He maximised it, got a point, qualified in Q3, beat an Aston Martin, which should have been better. I thought he was absolutely brilliant.
Speaking of those other teams that go away from this race scoreless, which teams and which drivers do you think will look at this race and go, maybe we should have been in that fight with Tsunoda?
I think everyone realistically makes a case for it, other than probably Alpine and Williams. But the one that absolutely stands out for me, who really could have had this moment for them, I think are Sauber. I think it's Kick.
So annoyed.
I'm so annoyed for Valtteri Bottas. The guy is turning up week after week. That form is very much in the car, and he's running away with it. But the poor lad, it just can't come together for him. The car is clearly difficult to drive, and I think he's doing a brilliant job in maximising it. His qualifying was very, very strong again. I think it was P13 that he was starting in. So he was right there alongside the Haas guys, Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo. And just, again, pit stops weren't perfect. They're a couple of seconds slower than everyone else, which puts you back in the pack. And when you haven't got a great car that can make overtakes happen, it's really hard to get yourself ahead. This was an occasion where they could have picked up a point. And I do think now maybe this is the second or third time this season where if it had swung slightly the other way, Sauber could be on 3 or 4 points. They could be in that conversation with Haas, maybe with Minardi. But they're just not. Zhou has to retire with a gearbox failure, and that boy's retirement percentage must be through the roof in comparison to races starting because it's not looking good for him. But yeah, I imagine that the Haas guys are also probably kicking themselves a little bit. They were good. Their race form looked good. The strategy was a bit bizarre, as we already mentioned, with Hulkenberg not stopping under red flag and Magnussen still getting beat by Hulkenberg despite this. I do think that car was good enough that maybe on a better day they could have caught Yuki Tsunoda. And I think Lance Stroll will walk away annoyed that he was unable to get into the points. But Bottas is the big one. Sauber will be kicking themselves a bit.
I'm so annoyed at Sauber because they should have been in that, and they were in that fight. Like Bottas and Tsunoda were together for the first part of this race. And it just so happens, like, whenever they need to make a pit stop, it just all falls apart. And we saw it twice today, and we see it every single race. It is nothing short of an embarrassment. It is an utter embarrassment to the team that they can't do one of the most fundamental parts of this job. And it doesn't sound like a lot because, they might lose, I don't know, 2 seconds in a pit stop if they're doing like 4 or 5 seconds, but that really matters. Like over 10 laps, 0.2 of a second, like that, it all adds up. And when it pertains to track position, and that was the major issue with what happened today, is that, it's, you get stuck behind Bottas basically spent the second half of this race stuck behind Kevin Magnussen. And it just meant that time multiplied lap after lap. They should have absolutely been in that fight for 10th place. Valtteri Bottas drove well enough that he should have been in that fight for 10th place. We've got to the point where we're basically clapping and cheering them for doing a 4-second pit stop.
4 seconds is slow. For
4 seconds is bad. Yeah. Really bad.
You look at, we just praised the pit crew for Minardi. That was the difference maker. That got him out into clean air that made him deliver it. And you look at, when Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris came into the pit lane at the same time, the Ferrari boys here a 2.1, the McLaren guys here a 2.4. That meant Leclerc was in front of Norris coming out the pit lane. It will make or break a season if you keep getting it wrong. They're not just getting it wrong. They've just thrown the entire car off of a cliff and hoped it carried on driving at this point. It is disastrously bad. It's like saying, well, you could get round the lap without changing gear. Yeah, I can, but it's bloody rubbish, and it's far faster and far normal to change gear. That's how fundamental a good pit stop is at this point.
Yeah. The other point I wanted to make on Haas is that, I think Nico Hülkenberg could have been in that fight and probably should have been. Really his undoing. I know the strategy was weird, but I think the strategy came as a result of that awful start he had on the second start that we had. If that doesn't happen, and he finished quite well, like he came back quite well in this Grand Prix, I thought, but he just left himself too much to do based on that start. So I think he could have been there or thereabouts. Okay, welcome back. It's time for Moment of the Race, and we've got some Discord submissions coming up for you. But before we get there, Sam, what was your Moment of the Race?
I'm going to go with a nice, normal, simple one. And I'm just going to say it was Yuki Tsunoda scoring points at his home Grand Prix. I said it earlier, we've given him stick for the last couple of seasons. And I think rightly so. I do think he deserves some of the criticism. But this was a really, really good performance. And it was really nice to see him get a reward, such as scoring points at his home Grand Prix. Honestly, the Japanese F1 fans might be the best in the world. They are incredible. And he even said, I saw so many little mini-me's. I can't remember who said it. Maybe it was Carlos Sainz who turned around and said, "Are you sure you just weren't looking in a mirror?" Which I thought was quite funny. But what a weekend he's had. And the moment of the race was just him crossing the line, picking up that point. I thought it was brilliant.
I like to avoid the obvious answer, but on this occasion, I really can't. And this isn't this isn't the last time that this moment of the race will be said. But Lance Stroll's team radio to say that they're racing in a different category.
It's the campest radio message I've ever heard in Formula One.
Oh.
It's like a meme you hear on Vine, and then people put it over the radio message.
I know they went a different way in terms of setup on his car versus Fernando Alonso's, but honestly, look at the Alpines. Could be worse.
Your impression might just be funnier than his actual message. They're racing in a different category.
Oh, man. As mentioned, probably not the last time it's going to show up. We do have some Discord submissions. Thank you very much to all of you who have submitted something. We've only got time to get through some of them, I'm afraid. But if you do want to consider being played every time, we do this every single race review. So get in the Discord. Let's start with... All right, let's start with Beef. Go on, Beef.
Hello. I have to say, there was some bloody good driving out there today. Yuki was really good. Perez had some stellar moves. Leclerc almost pulled off a blinder. It's almost like it's the best 20 drivers in the world. Moment of the race, though, was Lance Stroll's radio. That made me have a little giggle. I hope you're all well. See you next time. Okay, bye.
Hard to deny.
I'd like to hear a Beef Stroll impression, please.
Well, maybe not a Beef Stroll impression, but let's hear from Charlie.
Hey all, it's Charlie. I'm submitting from the beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. And my moment of the race is Lance Stroll's radio. And the Discord said that someone needs to recreate it, so I'm going to go for it. It's unbelievable how bad our speed is on the straight, man. Like, it's a different category.
The octave higher that he goes on category is brilliant.
It really is. Let's go to Varts.
G'day, Vart from Down Under. First time submission, long time listener. My moment of the race would be Logan Sargent. You can't park there, mate. And somehow he got out of it. Cheers, boys.
That's great use of a meme. Well done.
Yep, indeed. Let's go to Mark from Chicago.
Hey guys, it's Mark from Chicago. Long
Weird
time
surname.
listener, first time caller. My moment of the race was Retrospice hooking me up with the race live stream because I forgot it started, so I missed half of it, but I got to see half of it, so thanks. My moment of the race, since I didn't see all of it, was seeing that the Haas's kind of looked decent. Hulkenberg had some really nice overtakes towards the end of the race, and my Haas delusion syndrome has been activated, so excited to see that. Hope to hear y'all talk about it. See ya.
The best part about Haas this race weekend was that gyro camera they had installed on Kevin Magnussen's
Very
car.
true.
I bloody love that thing. Put it on every car.
And in fairness to Haas, like, they weren't expecting this to be a good race for them. They identified very early on that high speed first sector it wasn't suited to their car. So to see them still be quite competitive, I thought was quite good. Let's go to Cade.
Okay, that overtake by Lando on George on that one corner, that was nice. That was smooth. That was wonderful to watch.
Smooth.
Not the smooth operator, but yeah, I mean, there were some good overtakes into turn one. I do think when the tyres were competitive and you got it just into the corner of turn one, that is always good to watch at Suzuka.
I'm a fan of turn one.
It's good fun again.
It
It's
is
good
good. Let's go to Kem Tassel.
Cam Tassie here. First time submitter. Been listening for a while. Love the podcast. Thanks so much. Bold predictions are hilarious. My moment of the race was Carlos Sainz going past Leclerc. Can't believe he doesn't have a race seat for next year. How long till Ferrari want to swap? Maybe?
Ooh,
And sad for Ricciardo.
sad
Thanks.
Cardo.
Bye.
Yeah, I think we're still quite a few steps off a swap, but yeah.
My mum says you've got to give me my cards back. That's what I imagine Ferrari are going to do to Mercedes.
Yeah, I imagine so. And lastly, let's hear from OTB.
Hey guys, this is OTB from New Zealand, the real down under. My moment of the race was Logie Bear stopping for a quick wee in the kitty litter before reversing out and getting back on the track. Well done, Logie Bear. Keep it up, mate.
That's brilliant. OTB with the rivalry down under and the kitty litter reference.
Well done, Logie Bear. Keep it up.
Do you think that kitty litter is as good as Whippersnipper?
Oh, it's right up there, you know. I think it might be.
We'll let you guys decide on the Discord.
We should have asked for Harry's moment of the race, really, but we'll have to make one up for him
I don't know
instead.
who that guy is. I don't know who that. My moment of the race is Harry watching it.
Harry's moment of the race was... No, I can't think of anything funny. This is a usual incident, but...
He ran faster than the Alpine drove.
He's got a good shot, to be fair to him. He's got a very good shot. Best of luck to him. I mean, when you're all listening to this, he'll be either halfway through it or done or dead. So we'll soon find out.
If you find Harry on the streets of London, please help him.
Please do. Do you want to get us out of here?
Yeah, okay, sure. It's been a good weekend of racing. We've had some good fun. And if you'd like to carry on the action, talking more about the Japanese Grand Prix, then we're going to be doing our power rankings next.
Yeah, boy.
That's on Patreon. That is the best way to support this show. That really does help us out. You can find a link to that in the description below. There's multiple tiers as well. So if you think, oh, it's a bit spenny on the top tier, it's about £9, $12 on the top tier. You think, well, there are lower tiers with other benefits where you can get more content as well. So check it out. You just have a look. We appreciate the support massively. Discord's in the bottom as well if you want to have a little look. Social media is at Late Breaking F1 on all platforms. And this has also been video recorded. So keep that in mind. If you think, oh, I want to sit down and have a little look at these guys. We're here for all to see in our beauty. Not looking tired at all, I promise. Thanks for listening. We appreciate the support. We will be back midweek to what we're doing midweek, Ben.
I don't know. Just standard episode, I think.
Okay, just more F1 chat.
Yeah.
Just having a big old chit chat on F1. We'll be there back midweek as well. And of course, we will also be there on Sunday for a normal episode. What day is episode day? Sunday. We'll be there. I think that's everything. Cheers from Harry. He's a plonker and he's running really, really fast. Good luck to him. And I've been Samuel Sage.
And I've been Ben Hocking. And remember, keep breaking late.